My guest writes this: Common Core is a very real threat to the basic freedoms we take for granted in America. How can a small number of rich elites, leftists, and government committees decide what American children K through 12 will be fed in public schools, aside from it being the furthest thing from what our founders envisioned for education? Tax-paying citizens, including parents of young children, have had no say in the standards being implemented. The adoption of the Common Core state standards is flat-out government overreach. In addition to federal control comes a loss of state and parental input and local autonomy. My guest says, additionally, tragically, states that have accepted Common Core money have ceded control to the federal government, taking it away from parents, teachers, and local school boards beyond the continuing educational mediocrity in public schools. Elaborate plans are in place to use the required national assessments within the Common Core standards as a tool to institute, now listen up, massive data collection on American school children. This means an alarming amount of data collected that has nothing to do with education and everything to do with government intrusion. Well, my guest, David Fiorazo, says that a century-old movement towards a global education and a rush to a new world order, in addition to Obama's election, a Democratic majority back then, and the '09 stimulus, created the perfect storm for the creation of Common Core. Dave Fiorazo has been with us before. We've talked about a couple of his books, Eradicate, Blotting Out God in America. The current one that we carry is The Cost of Our Silence, The Consequences of Christians Taking the Path of Least Resistance. Eric Barger is in studio with me to help me quiz David about this very, very troubling topic, as I know you agree, Eric, that it is huge government overreach again.
I agree completely, and this is a topic that I hope every parent and grandparent stands up and listens to carefully.
David Fiorazo is an author, writer, content contributor, public speaker, and radio personality, and he has been involved in the broadcasting and entertainment industries for over 30 years, been in Christian ministry over 25 years. David, welcome back to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, one size fits all. Tell us in a couple of paragraphs, David, and we'll play some sound bites to back everything up here, but what does it all mean, one size fits all?
Oh my goodness, there's so much information to get into here. I'll try to be concise. The government cannot dictate the education standards and curriculum for every single public school child in America and have them learn the same things as they gear everything toward the testing. But think about the diverse backgrounds, interests, personalities, the intelligence of kids, the age differences. Think about religious differences. Think about teaching an entire nation of children the same thing, regardless of whether they are Jewish, Italian, Hispanic. These are their backgrounds or nationalities, black, white, Indian, Asian, atheist, Buddhist, Christian, or Muslim. It is absolutely ridiculous to do this. It is insane because that's one size fits all. They're trying to do that. It doesn't work in a free society, but that's just it. They don't want a free society. It's very much socialism infused, I like to say. But before we get into even more details, I do want to tell you some good news.
Yes.
Whenever I check the polls on people that are learning about Common Core, and there's still way too many parents that have no idea, but the surveys say that the more people learn about the content and quality of the standards, the less they approve of them. And I think right now support around the 30% and around there for parents and people that support Common Core. So the more people learn, the more concerns they have. But the problem is we've been silent on this. But another problem is they shoved this through kind of like the massive health care bill, Obamacare. It was very similar in that they did it under the radar. Mm-hmm. So you mentioned something in the opening paragraph that tax-paying citizens, including parents of young children, have had no say in the standards being implemented. Think about this. We're in America, supposedly a free country. Our government is dictating what our children are being taught, and they are not giving the parents any say in this implementation of Common Core, and that should be a concern right off top.
Well, it's funded by several sources. It's funded by, as you point out, a power-hungry government, by special interest groups, by wealthy elites. It's also funded by, and I guess Bill Gates would fall into a couple of those categories, but it's also funded by Bill Gates to the tune of $200 million. And my understanding understanding is he's partly funded it like that because Microsoft stands to get back far more than $200 million. Is that right?
Absolutely, because of the technology requirements and the increases in modernizing some of the testing. In fact, some of the testing will be done online, if not a majority of it eventually. So this requires more computers and earphones and the things you get, the things for the computers, the mouse and everything else, the electronics. Microsoft is going to really make out very well when it comes to this. But this was the perfect storm in 2009. This was not a result of Barack Obama becoming president, but when he did, this opened the door for Common Core to be implemented because Gates and others had been working on the curriculum since, I believe, around 2005. And he's put, like you said, millions and millions of dollars into this, not only trying to implement the standards, but then they also did their sales on trying to go out and sell this to not only the media and the public. So they put a lot of money into this, and we should ask why, and why America and the parents did not know much about this. That should be concerning as well.
It certainly should be, David. You know, it's kind of shocking to me that any true intellectual would get behind this, considering what the whole entirety of the plan does to our kids and to their education, to their history, to what's going to happen to them in the future. But, you know, it seems to me like that this thing also was pushed through because it was, if you didn't do this, you wouldn't get government funding. U.S. funds would not be available to you. Am I correct about that?
Yes, they did this. Really, they coerced the states, saying if you don't accept these standards, and by the way, the states were never given an opportunity to read or even know what the standards contained. So that shows another level of irresponsibility on behalf of the governors in the states that did accept it. But yes, they said they would not get millions and millions of federal money if they did not accept these standards sight unseen.
Well,
it was really an amazing.
Not everyone's going along with it, based on my reading. I don't think even the NEA is all that thrilled about it. Am I right? And then there are some states like New York Board of Education not very impressed.
Yes, and exactly. And some, even I believe the New York City Teachers Union, which is a massive teachers union, they were rejecting the standards as well. Now, for different reasons. Understand, our concerns are this anti-Christian worldview and what that might contain as far as Common Core goes. But they were just saying, hey, we didn't have any say, and you're going to make us do this. They had different reasons for not backing it, but nonetheless, there were some teachers unions that were not favoring Common Core because they didn't get a chance to have any input in it. So there's a lot of concerns all the way around. A lot of concerns